Ah. Yes, that's right. It is, it is day 32 of 100 Days of Making Comics. I'm your host, Gazbot, and this is some Super Sentai swag I got for Christmas that I felt the need to play with. So anyway, we are at day 32. Now, yesterday I did a quick little blip update that was mostly like, Merry Christmas! And I hadn't even done any work yet. I did promise to do at least my 30 minutes, which I did. At the very end of the night, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh yeah. And so I went and looked at issue 1 of the horror. Q had done her revisions, her notes, whatever. Then I did the revisions, and it took about a half hour, incorporated all her notes, and finished that. So that was yesterday. Today was, spending a lot of aftermath of Christmas, cleaning up wrapping and putting things away and playing with a few things. The aforementioned Morpher henshin device for Gokaiger. But I also worked. I wasn't sure what to do because I didn't have any writing to work on. And so I spent 20 minutes or so putting together. I have a visual library of all the characters I've done so far and stuff, but I hadn't updated that in a while. So I spent about 20 minutes putting those characters and scenes and things that I've designed into that, and looked at a couple typos in issue 1 and things like that, but nothing too major. And then I decided to just go ahead and design another character, again, like a tertiary character. There's the military has a supreme commander, and then there's this sub-commander I had also drawn, but then there's a guy in between the two, which is, I gotta get the ranks correct, or at least consistent, but he's sort of the second in command, which I had never done. Went ahead and did him, and I did a process video, which I'll put up right here!
So to start with, I pulled up the leader sheet I had done for the main commander design, and decided to use one of my rejected ideas, which is the one that was based on the actor Terrence Stamp. And here I'm just sort of throwing in a body. I want him to be a sort of thin guy. Perfect straight up posture. Then I'm grabbing the costume from his subordinate and his commander, and I want it to be different than both, but still look like they're part of the same military. So I want it to be a little bit fancier than the guy under him, and a little bit less fancy than the guy over him. And then I put in a couple flares of his own. Here I was just doing a height check, so he'd be roughly the same size as the commander. His commander, I should say. And I put the belt in from his subordinate, but I moved it up higher so it's more decorative. Gave him similar pants to his commander, but then I put the straps and boots of his subordinate, figuring that the Supreme Commander has these special military boots, and he has just the regular military shoes. The jacket is sort of a mix between their two jackets. And all three of them have sort of pointy shoulder pads that are vaguely kind of 70s science fiction, but I figured could also just be, to make them look tougher or more intimidating, broad-shouldered. So kind of argued with myself that could have a military application while being cosmetic and a little bit goofy. I was just checking his height there. He seemed like he should be a little taller, making a few adjustments. I think at some point I realized his neck looks a little bit long. Oh, yeah, there you go. So I gave him his own kind of special collar that's a mix between the two. Right here I have it kind of pointy, and it's looking a little Ming the Merciless. I think I adjust it later to be a little less pointy. I was just checking that he was sort of straight there. Okay, get rid of those guys, and now it's time for cleanup. Oh yeah, there, I made his head a little smaller because the neck was poking up a bit too high. And then I just went for a cleanup. You can see here where I cut out the points, so it's raised up but a little less, 30s space villain. Although I do have the pointy shoulder pads still. And yeah, there's not much to say here. I'm just cleaning up what you've already seen. I didn't even really need to do this, probably, but I just felt like putting some time in, and didn't know what else to do. So I did some extra cleanup. I gave him one pocket and some medals, but not as many medals as his boss. And no pocket on that side, because that's just the medal side. Because you get to this rank, you better have some medals. And more pockets and lines. And this character is named, I believe, Rickard Williamson, which is a weird backwards flipped around way of saying William Riker, who's the second in command on Star Trek Next Generation. So I figured since he's second in command, I'll give him a flipped around backwards version of that name. Actually, he was originally, he's Rickard Williamson. Originally he was Reinhardt Williamson, but then I liked the idea of an exclamation for the characters to say Reinhardt's ghost, kind of like Great Caesar's ghost. And so I changed his name to Rickard. And here I'm just putting those little circles are actually the insignias of the military, so I was just making it so. Ha ha ha! Another Star Trek joke. And once again, some shading like I've done in other drawings that's not really necessary, but just to make them look a little bit more finished, a little bit more alive. I usually draw shadows at 50% and then erase at 50% and then take the whole level down 50%. I think I was just messing around. I don't know what I was doing. Oh, I needed to give him a hat. So I was grabbing the hats from the two others. Again, his underling on the left, his superior on the right. And first I started thinking I would draw a hat kind of like the underling and modify it a bit, but I don't know, I was having a hard time making it work the way I wanted to. I kind of just kept redrawing the same thing, and then it looked kind of goofy. Also, I like the idea of keeping some of his high forehead visible. So then I thought, well, give him the beret like the commander has, sort of a Marines, or I forget who wears those. But I was having trouble getting it to look right. You can see here I narrowed the band. And at some point, I kept drawing both sides behind him, and it was looking wrong. And then all of a sudden, at some point, it occurred to me, oh yeah, part of it should sort of hang over the front, almost like bangs or something. And I think, nope, didn't quite get it there. Oh, that's where I figured out. I'm like, oh, right, that's how those things work. And it's funny, because sometimes you could redraw something 10 times and not understand why it's not working, and it might not be that you're drawing badly, it's just that you don't understand the function of the thing you're drawing. And so, you know, that was one of those moments where, like, when I remembered how those hats actually work, it was super easy to just draw it that way. But when I kept, you know, trying to figure it out through drawing, it was going nowhere. And then I darkened that in, kept a little headshot of him without the hat as well. And here's the final shot. There's Commander Rickard.
Ha! So that was that. Meanwhile, oh, you like my new Dragon Zord shirt? This was also a Christmas gift from my lovely Q-bot, who is my wife. And so that was my work for today. I think what I'm going to do, I've been talking to Q, and she's been pretty busy. She's gave me notes my first round through. I made all the changes, and I was kind of wanted her to reread the changes I've made based on her suggestions, which is what she did for issue 1. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and take what I have now, which is issue 1, which has been rewritten twice, and issue 2, 3, and 4, which have been rewritten once, and just take it as is and show it to my other writer friend that I had told you guys about. I'll probably, after this video, I'll figure out the best way to send it to him and do that tonight, and then hopefully, you know, he won't take too long to get back to me on that. And I could do those rewrites and get into something else, which means tomorrow I'll also be kind of wondering what I'm doing. Maybe another character design, maybe another background design, yeah, so that should move writing along by streamlining that. And then, yeah, otherwise today has been a very chilled out, uneventful day. I've been busy, but busy just doing fun post-holiday stuff. I'm gonna have leftover vegetable lasagna, which I cooked yesterday for the first time, and I love it. I've had it before. My mom usually makes it, but this time I made it because I'm the mom. And so yeah. So anyway, so day 32, and that means
there are 78 days left.